and welcome back to my channel. My name is Zoe, and in today's video I want to talk about all the books that I read in November. And you know, I said in, I think the last wrap-up video which was the September and October wrap-up, that I don't have the feeling of filming monthly wrap-ups anymore. But after I read in November all my books, I was like, okay, I want to talk about them. I want to talk all about them. What can I say? November was the best reading month I think I had in the last 2 years. My average rating was 4 stars. And I think if you go back to the months before, I never had that. I never had 4 stars. Normally I'm always between 3, 3.2. And so it was really exciting for me to actually have like a good month. I read 7 books, which is around 2,761 pages. I had 2 5 stars, 3 4 stars and 2 3 stars, and nothing below. So I would say we start my 2 to 3 stars and then we go up to my 4 and 5 stars, obviously. The first 3 stars that I had was Shipwrecked by Olivia Dade. So this is the third book in the spoiler alert series, and I talked about the other 2 books too on this channel in wrap-ups. All the Feels, I think in the last wrap-up video was my 5 star, and then Shipwreck came out in November and I read it immediately after it came out. And I think the book was not bad. I think 3-star rating is not a bad rating. But I'm kind of sad for Shipwreck that it has the rating that it had, because I think it had such a good potential for me to be a 4-star or even a 5-star. In Shipwreck we follow a couple that is also part of this whole crew cast from the series, that the first 2 characters of spoiler alert and All the Feels are in. Make the sentence sense? I don't think, but they are all co-workers, and the 2 main characters in Shipwrecked are also co-workers for each other. And here's the whole plot. So they both characters, they meet each other for a one-night stand, and Maria left without a notice from the one-night stand, and on the next day she finds out that her new co-worker for the series is also the guy she slept with last night. And so the whole story of them starts a little bit of a fight because she left with the one-night stand without notice. But they became friends, and they are still attracted to each other, but they decided to not be together because they're like in the series. They are part of like a whole spin-off series, I think it was like that. And they're the only 2 characters in the show, and they don't want to risk anything. It's still part of the synopsis, okay? Can you follow? And we could have a great slow burn, a really good slow one, but unfortunately we haven't. We had the before, and we got nothing in between the time where they are just co-workers, just friends, and became friends. And we got straight into the 6-year time jump, and we are in the present where they start where the show ends, and they're now free from their responsibilities from the show, and the whole love story begins. So, and this is the part where I was like mad about it, because we could have like little scenes of them, like maybe after the first season, how they have maybe a risky night and they're like, oh, a little spicy scene, or they get to know each other, because after the 6-year time jump we don't know the characters at all. We don't know them. We don't know how any of the families that they have is. And so we learn after the 6-year time jump, when both the characters say about each other that they're best friends, we get to know the character. And so the whole we are best friends doesn't feel right for me, because if I have a best friend who didn't know the stuff about me after 6 years being friends, I would be mad to tell them after 6 years of friendship how my family dynamics work. But of course Olivia Dade needs to explain this to us because it's part of the story, but we don't know about it. And so I wished in the we didn't go straight into the 6-year time jump and just have little explanations of how the friendship was built, and then go into a little bit more of a time jump and when they have like no responsibility anymore for the show. I hope you get what I mean. This is why I ended up giving this 3 stars. It was a little bit disappointing. And the other 3 stars that I have is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I honestly, also, it was not a bad book. I really enjoyed reading it, but it was not overwhelming for me that I really stick to the page and just keep reading. And I also thought with the end, I didn't particularly like the end, and so I also decided for the 3 stars airing, because you follow in the book a band, the Six and Daisy Jones, and Daisy Jones is like a really party girl, doing drugs, doing alcohol, and it was a part in the beginning of the 70s where it's like everything is like rock, roll, drugs and alcohol and whatever. And in the 6th you also have like Billy, the main singer of the band, and you follow the story how the Six got together, how they built the rock band, how they produced the first album. And it was fun to read, especially the style, because it was mainly an interview or like a docu series that they filmed kind of style. Yeah, it was okay. It was not my favorite. I definitely liked the 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo more. I still also have Carrie Soto in the is back I have here, and I still need to read Malibu Rising. I definitely want to read more of her work, but this was not that best for me, at least. And now let's go to my 4 stars. Let's start with the first one, Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. I really enjoyed this. I really loved it. You follow the story of Frances, who is a really hard-working student. She gets all the A's. She wants to go to Cambridge. And also, what she also does is drawing comics. And she has a favorite podcast show on YouTube, and it's called Radio City, University City. And they, the producer of the podcast show asked Frances if she wants to do the artwork for that podcast show. And in that situation, Frances gets to know who the producer is, and she gets friends with the person. And you follow now the story of both of the characters, try to identify what they want to be in the future, what is going on in their life. And also this book is the perfect example of how people not if you're an online person and you're out in the internet, that people think they have a right to know everything about you, and they don't have. Like, I only tell you that much that I want to tell you, and everything else is none of your business. And this book was the perfect example of how people cannot stay the fuck out of other people's life. And it had also a lot of do with, I would kind of say, of with online mobbing, harassment. And this was a really good book, and I can really recommend this to you. I enjoyed it and give it 4 stars. The other 4 star that I have was Olympus Volume 2 by Rachel Smythe. And I think I talked also in the last wrap-up about this. And I am a hardcore Hades and Persephone fan. If you just ignore the fact that Hades is her uncle. And yeah, what a good story. Just ignore the fact. I really like the story and how I try my best to read all the Hades and Persephone retellings that are out there in the world. And Lore Olympus is a really fast read. I enjoyed my time reading it. It also handles hard topics, which is not always like good to read about. Like I said in the last couple of episodes too, how much can you enjoy the theme if the theme is that hard? It's good that they talk about it, and I like the way they talked about it in Olympus so far. Not in Volume 2 specifically, because they don't talk about what happened in Volume 1 in volume 2, but they will do in the future volumes. And I really like the artwork. I really like the color scheme. I like the blue and the pink. It's just stunning, and I can't wait to read the next volumes. Actually, I don't have the volumes here. I read it on the webtoon, which is really fun because there's more out. So more than the volumes that are announced yet. So I read it on there if you want to read it. And the last 4-star I had was The Blood Traitor by Lynette Noni. And I finished now the series, The Prison Healer, and I talked also about the books in my last couple of wrap-ups. The first 2 books, Prison Healer and The Gilded Cage, are one of my favorite series of all time, I would say. I really liked it. It was every time a 5-star for me, and I was a little bit disappointed in the last book. I don't know how I really can explain it, but the first story is mainly about Kiva, how she was in the prison healer, and there was the rebel queen, and the rebel queen was unconscious, and they wanted to do a trial on the rebel queen, and if she would win all the trial tasks, she would be free. But of course she couldn't do it because she was unconscious, and Kiva stepped in for the rebel queen and did all the tasks. And it was really great to read that, and it also had really hard topics. So I would say it's YA, but for more on the adult side, like more for 16, 17, 18, but which is still YA, but not for like 14-year-olds, I would say, with the topics that are in the book. And in the second book you get to know more about Kiva and what's behind her story. I don't want to go into detail because that's a huge plot point into Prison Healer. But what I can say about the Blood Traitor without spoil a lot of the book is that I was kind of disappointed that everything fall for Kiva and the group that she's in, because yes, it was a YA, yes, that everything falls for them is YA, but the first books didn't give me the YA feeling that I always have with YA, so I was kind of disappointed that I get the whole young adult theme of everything falls for them. I wish there was a little bit more twists and turns, which makes it harder for them, the whole book, but it was still a great book. It was still a great ending, and I still enjoyed reading it, definitely. I actually listened to the audiobook, but the audiobook was also great, and I give it 4 stars. It is a perfect series, okay? Read it. I definitely can recommend this to you, but it's just me being picky, okay? But it's still 4 stars, so everything is fine. Let's go to my 5 stars. My last 2 5 stars. The first one is Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race by Reni Eddo-Lodge. I listened to this book in the beginning of the month. I definitely talk about this in a vlog. I really enjoyed how much you can enjoy a book with that theme. You have in the book a great mixture of Reni Eddo-Lodge talking about the history of black people, especially in the UK, because she is from the UK, and so she's talking about the UK, and also about of modern times, what's still happening, about feminism, especially feminism was more for white people, and how we need to include more black people, which is true, definitely. And I had a really enjoyable time listening to this, because I listened also to the audiobook, which is, by the way, narrated by the author itself, which is something I love it. And I really learned a lot of things, let's say it like that. I didn't know about a lot of things, and a lot of stuff that she talks about was really opening for me. What I still need to do, and what I try to find after reading this book, is to find a book, or maybe a podcast or something like that, if I try to find it, about black history in Germany. Because after reading this book, reading other books about racism, and I haven't got the feeling that I really know something about my own country. And yeah, it's a really great book. I would say definitely read it. especially if you're a white person. The best book in my month was Fragile Heart by Mona Kasten. Mona Kasten is a German author. A few books from her are translated into English, so I want to talk about her, but because maybe there's a chance she will get translated into English, which I hope, because I really love the author. I love her work. It's really good. And Fragile Heart was the second book in the duology about also a rock band. Normally I'm not a really big fan of rock band love stories or love stories with stars in it, but I don't know what happened in like the last half of a year, because I like give it all to me about stars, and sometimes I enjoy the books, sometimes not so. In the story you follow Adam, who is the drummer in a band, and Rosie has her own online podcast show, and she interviews rock bands or bands in general, because she likes music. The whole theme about this her podcast online thing is music, and her favorite band is the band that Adam plays in, and she gets the chance to interview them, but something went terribly wrong, and the band leaves the live interview and hating her, and then the whole internet hates her too because of what happened. And they follow now the story how the band feels now sorry for her, and they get along with each other, with Rosie, and especially Rosie and Adam get along with each other, but Adam has a lot of problems. Of course he has a lot of problems, and he needs to go to therapy. We love a man that goes to therapy. We love it. So he and Rosie split, and then we read Fragile Heart. When I tell you that maybe too much information, was severely hangover on a Sunday. I haven't slept the whole night, not because I was so drunk that I feel bad, because the night before I lay badly and my neck hurt, and when I tried to sleep my neck hurt the whole time. So I barely slept 2 hours before I finally decided, okay, it's time to get up, because I couldn't sleep because my neck hurt that much. And then I get, of course, headache because my neck hurt, and I had a hangover. So I decided, what do I do now? And I grabbed the book, decided to read it, and I read it in one sitting. This book is 416 pages long, and I sat down, started reading it, and didn't stop reading it. I ugly cried while reading the book. I take a picture and send this to my friend, and like, read this book. This book was amazing. It was 5 stars for me. I loved it. And I hope one day you will get the chance to read Fragile Heart and Lonely Heart, because it's the first book in the series. And yeah, this was my whole November. I love it. 7 books and a 4-star average rating, 2 5 stars, 3 4 stars, 2 3 stars. Amazing. It's amazing reading month. I love it. And let me know in the comments what you would read in November. What was your favorite book? And then I hope you have an amazing week and amazing holidays. If you celebrate something, I hope you have an amazing time. And if not, I still hope you have an amazing time. Then I see you in my next video. Bye.